When the weight of the world falls on your shoulders, most people break. Deadlines crush them, criticism burns them, uncertainty drowns them. But the Stoics saw pressure differently. Pressure is not the enemy. Pressure is the forge. The battlefield isn't the insult, the crisis, or the unexpected blow of fate. The battlefield is the single breath you take before you react. If you can master that silence, nothing can break you. Today, we reveal 5 Stoic rules to stay calm under pressure. Rules that carried emperors, philosophers, and warriors through storms, and can carry you through yours. Pressure wears many faces. For some, it's the suffocating weight of a deadline. For others, it's the silent storm of overthinking at night. And for many, it's the sting of insult, the fear of failure, or the chaos of the unexpected. Micro-story 1, the stage. You step onto the platform, dozens of eyes on you, your throat dries. Your mind whispers, "What if I fail?" The stage doesn't crush you, the whisper does. Micro-story 2, the message. It's late. A notification lights up your phone. "We need to talk tomorrow." 10 words, that's all. Yet your mind races. Am I in trouble? Did I make a mistake? Nothing has happened yet, but already the storm has begun inside. Marcus Aurelius faced pressure on a scale beyond imagination, wars, plagues, betrayals. And yet he wrote to himself in silence, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That sentence is not just philosophy, it is an emergency procedure. It separates the storm outside from the storm inside. The world rages, but the true battle is in your judgment of it. Think of the mind like a glass of water. Shake it violently and the water clouds with sediment. Leave it still and the dirt settles. Anger is the shaking hand. Silence is the stillness that brings clarity. The anatomy of emotional collapse is simple. A trigger arrives, an insult, a delay, an unexpected problem. A judgment follows, unfair, impossible, dangerous. Then the impulse, attack, flee, despair. Finally, the regret. The Stoic path is to interrupt this chain, to see the process, name it, and refuse to be enslaved by it. Not to feel nothing, but to feel and still choose. Calm, to the Stoic, is not ice, it is fire mastered. The first Stoic rule under pressure: control only what is yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Most collapse under pressure because they try to carry what was never theirs to carry: the opinions of others, the outcomes of fortune, the behavior of strangers. Epictetus, once a slave, became free by drawing a line. Some things are in our control and others not. Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, these are yours. Everything else, fate, weather, reputation, outcomes, are not. Practical tool: the 3 circles of control. Draw 3 circles. Inner circle, your actions. Middle circle, your influence. Outer circle, the indifferent, what you cannot change. Take a stressful situation, say a Friday deadline. Inner circle, you can prioritize tasks, ask for clarity, focus and rest. Middle circle, you can negotiate scope, request support. Outer circle, the client's mood, sudden changes, interruptions. Spend 2 minutes placing your problem into circles. Then star 3 actions in the inner circle. Do 1 immediately. Why does this work? Because control restores agency. Agency reduces overthinking. Less rumination means more focus. Focus creates progress. Progress reduces perceived pressure. The Stoic mantra: do what is yours, release what is not. Repeat. The battlefield is always inside. The world provokes, but your mind decides. Rule 1. Control only what is yours. Use the 3 circles of control to turn anxiety into action. Rule 2. Pause before reacting. Pressure often arrives not as a mountain, but as a spark, a careless word, a sudden setback, a moment that demands a decision. Most people react instantly. They fight, they panic, they defend, and in doing so, they hand over their power. Epictetus warned us, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." The Stoic understood that between event and reaction there is a gap, and in that gap lies freedom. The breath before the storm. Imagine you are insulted in public. The crowd waits for your response. Your heart pounds, your face flushes, the instinct to lash out ignites. But there is a breath before the words leave your mouth. One single breath. That breath is the battlefield. If you seize it, you control the outcome. If you waste it, the outcome controls you. The pause is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. Micro-story 1. The meeting room. A manager humiliates you in front of the team. Your chest burns. The urge to snap back rises, but instead you pause. You take a sip of water. You let the silence stretch just long enough to gather clarity. When you finally respond, your voice is calm, measured, unshaken. The room shifts. You appear stronger than the one who attacked. The pause turned pressure into poise. Micro-story 2. The argument at home. Your partner criticizes you harshly after a long day. Normally you'd throw the words back like knives, but today you pause. You walk into another room. You breathe, count to 10, reflect. When you return, instead of escalating, you say, "I hear you. Let's talk about this tomorrow." The storm dissolves. The pause saved the relationship from unnecessary scars. The tool. Tactical breathing. The Stoics did not describe breathing techniques in modern terms, but they practiced composure in moments of strain. Here is one adaptation: 4-6 breathing. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Exhale through your mouth for 6 seconds. Repeat 3 times. This slows the pulse, clears the mind, and expands the gap between trigger and response. In that gap, you choose who you will be. The warrior's drill. Delayed response. Another Stoic exercise. Delay your answer. If someone insults you, instead of responding in 10 seconds, wait 10 minutes. If possible, wait a day. Seneca wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." Most of what feels urgent in the heat of pressure loses power with time. The pause reveals how little deserves your reaction. Metaphor: the archer's release. Think of an archer. The untrained archer fires as soon as the bow is drawn, desperate to release the tension. The master archer holds, waits, breathes, releases only when the aim is true. Your reaction is the arrow. If you release too soon, you miss. If you wait for calm, you strike with precision. Why the pause works. Neuroscience confirms what the Stoics intuited. When triggered, the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, fires instantly. But if you pause, even for a few seconds, your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, regains control. The Stoics didn't need neuroscience, they simply practiced. They knew the pause is the key to sovereignty over the self. Practical drill, the one-breath rule. Before answering, moving, or reacting under pressure, take one breath, just one. You will notice that 90% of reactions lose their urgency after that single pause. And the 10% that remain, you will handle them with clarity instead of chaos. Pressure is often a spark. React too quickly and you burn. Pause and you master it. The pause is not weakness. It is self-command. Use tactical breathing and delayed response to train the gap between event and reaction. Remember, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Seneca Rule 3. Practice voluntary hardship. Most people collapse under pressure because they live too comfortably. They have not trained for adversity. When life strikes, illness, loss, rejection, they are unprepared. The Stoics believed comfort was a liar. It whispers that life will always be smooth. But reality is rough, uncertain, unmerciful. So the wise did not wait for hardship. They sought it. Seneca's warning. Seneca lived in wealth, yet he trained in poverty. He would sleep on the ground, eat the simplest food, wear coarse clothing. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, and say to yourself, 'Is this the condition I feared?'" By rehearsing discomfort, he robbed it of its power. When true hardship came, he was already familiar with its face. Micro Story 1. The Cold Shower. A modern seeker begins taking cold showers every morning. At first his body screams, his breath shortens, his mind begs him to stop. But after weeks, something changes. The cold no longer terrifies him. The daily discipline gives him a hidden strength. When a crisis at work erupts, he does not panic. Compared to the shock of icy water, the heated words of a colleague feel like nothing. Micro Story 2. The Fasting Ritual. A young woman practices fasting once a week. At first, the hunger gnaws at her. She feels weak, distracted, but slowly she learns to master her cravings. She realizes hunger passes, and she is stronger than the discomfort. When her company goes through layoffs, the fear of loss presses on her chest, but she remembers, "I have endured hunger. I can endure this." Her calmness makes her a pillar for those around her. The philosophy of anti-fragility. The Stoics anticipated what modern thinkers call anti-fragility. Glass shatters under stress, metal bends, but the human spirit, when trained, grows stronger under pressure. Hardship is not only something to survive, it is something to use. Metaphor. The blacksmith's anvil. Picture an anvil in a blacksmith's workshop. Every strike of the hammer seems like destruction, but in reality, each blow shapes the sword. Life is the hammer, you are the steel. Hardship is not ruin, it is refinement. The tools of voluntary hardship: cold exposure, showers, swims, or winter walks. Teaches resilience to shock. Fasting. Skipping a meal to prove hunger does not own you. Silence. Spending a day without unnecessary words builds patience. Simplicity. Sleeping on the floor, wearing plain clothes, eating basic food. Discomfort. Training. Choosing the stairs over the elevator, carrying heavy bags, walking instead of driving. Each is small, but together they carve strength into your character. Why voluntary hardship works. Pressure in life is inevitable, but if you have chosen to face hardship regularly, involuntary hardship loses its sting. Seneca said, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." Voluntary hardship is not punishment, it is preparation. It is rehearsing the worst so the worst cannot surprise you. Practical drill, the discomfort menu. Create a list of 5 small hardships you can practice weekly. For example, 1 cold shower, 1 skipped meal, 1 day with no social media, 1 night sleeping without a pillow, 1 walk in the rain without an umbrella. Choose 1 per day. The point is not suffering. The point is training. Micro Story 3. The job interview. A man has an important interview. On the morning of the big day, he finds his train cancelled, his suit wrinkled, and his nerves rising. But instead of collapsing, he breathes. He remembers the nights he deliberately slept on the floor. He remembers the meals he skipped by choice. He remembers the discomfort he embraced. He tells himself, "If I endured that willingly, I can endure this." He walks into the room calm, while others sweat. The interviewers see poise, not panic. Metaphor. The storm and the sailor. A sailor who only sails calm seas fears the first storm. But the sailor who has practiced in rough waters does not panic. The storm is not easier. It is the sailor who is stronger. Voluntary hardship is sailing in rough waters before life demands it. Comfort weakens, hardship strengthens. Seneca advised practicing poverty to rob fear of its bite. Voluntary hardship builds anti-fragility. You grow stronger under stress. Tools include fasting, cold exposure, silence, and simplicity. Remember, hardship is not punishment. It is training. Rule 4. Silence is strength. In a world that never stops shouting, silence feels unnatural. We are told to respond instantly, to defend ourselves, to always have the last word. But the Stoics knew better. Not every battle deserves your voice. Not every insult deserves your reply. Not every storm needs your words. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength, the noise of reaction. Most people believe power lies in words. They argue louder, faster, sharper, but often the loudest voice is the most fragile. Seneca observed, "It is better to conquer our grief than to deceive it." The same is true for anger, for fear, for pressure. Conquest comes not from noise, but from stillness. Micro Story 1, the online comment. A young artist posts her work online. Within minutes, a stranger comments, "This is terrible. Don't quit your day job." The urge to defend herself rises like fire. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, ready to fight back, but she pauses. She chooses silence. Hours later, she checks again. Her silence allowed others to defend her instead. The cruel comment was buried under encouragement and praise. Her silence turned enemies into allies. Micro Story 2, the negotiation. A man sits across from a potential employer. The interviewer makes an unreasonable offer. Most would rush to argue, to counter immediately, but the man remains silent. The silence stretches. The interviewer grows uncomfortable. Finally, the employer revises the offer upward, without a single word from the man. His silence spoke louder than his voice. Metaphor: the mountain in the storm. Imagine a storm raging, winds howling, lightning flashing. The mountain does not shout back, it simply stands. Your silence under pressure is that mountain, unmoved, unshaken. Its strength is not in resistance, but in immovability. The tool, the rule of 3 breaths. When provoked, do not speak until you've taken 3 breaths. The first breath releases the impulse. The second breath restores clarity. The third breath prepares wisdom. Only then do you decide whether words are needed at all. Most often they are not. Epictetus on provocation. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Insults only wound if you open the door. Silence keeps the door closed." Why silence works. Words are fuel. When you respond to provocation, you feed the fire. When you stay silent, the fire starves. Silence is also strategy. It confuses aggressors, calms allies, and preserves your dignity. In the marketplace of reactions, silence is priceless currency. Practical drill: the silent hour. Each day practice 1 hour without unnecessary speech. Observe how silence feels. Notice how your mind calms. Notice how others adjust around you. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence. Micro Story 3, the business leader. A CEO faces a boardroom full of angry investors. Questions fly, accusations sting. Everyone expects him to defend himself immediately. Instead, he listens in silence. The room grows quiet as people realize he will not be rushed. Finally, he speaks only one sentence. "Thank you. Let's address these concerns one by one." His silence set the tone. His calm turned chaos into order. Metaphor: the sword in the sheath. Words are like swords. If you swing at every shadow, your blade dulls. But if you keep it sheathed until truly necessary, one strike is enough. Your silence keeps the blade sharp. Silence is not weakness, it is mastery. Seneca and Epictetus taught restraint as the highest strength. Use the rule of 3 breaths to delay speech and master reaction. Silence preserves dignity, confuses aggressors, and empowers allies. Remember, the mountain does not answer the storm, it stands. Rule 5. Remember the bigger picture. Pressure shrinks our vision. We zoom in until the problem fills the entire frame of our lives. A deadline feels like the end of the world. A mistake feels like eternal failure. An insult feels like a permanent scar. But the Stoics taught us to step back, to widen the frame, to see the bigger picture. Marcus Aurelius on perspective. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You will meet it if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." He asked, "Will this matter in 10 years?" Sometimes even 10 days was enough to shrink the weight of a problem. Perspective dissolves pressure. Micro story 1. The broken vase. A child knocks over a vase. It shatters on the floor. The parent feels anger rising. But then they pause. They ask, "Will this matter in 10 years?" The answer is no. What will matter is whether the child remembers a moment of rage or a moment of forgiveness. Perspective changes everything. Micro story 2. The job rejection. A young man applies for his dream job. He is rejected. The pressure of failure crushes him. But years later, he looks back. The rejection led him to a different path, one that brought fulfillment and success he could not have imagined. The event that once felt like the end was only a bend in the road. The bigger picture revealed that rejection was redirection. Metaphor: the stars in the sky. When you stand too close to a fire, it blinds you. Step back and you see the stars above. Life's problems are fires. Step back far enough and you realize they are small compared to the vastness of existence. Seneca on time. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality. More pressure magnifies when we believe the moment is eternal, but time shrinks even the heaviest burdens." The tool, the 10-year test. When under pressure, ask 3 questions. Will this matter in 10 days? Will this matter in 10 months? Will this matter in 10 years? Most problems dissolve by the first question. The few that survive the third are worthy of your true focus. Micro story 3. The public speech. A student freezes during a public speech. Embarrassment floods him. He feels destroyed. Years later, no one remembers. Not a single classmate recalls the moment that haunted him. What felt eternal was forgotten in weeks. Pressure magnifies in the moment, but shrinks in memory. The cosmic view Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the vastness of the universe. He wrote, "Consider the immensity of time behind you and the infinity ahead. In comparison, your life is a mere instant." The emperor who ruled the known world humbled himself by remembering he was dust and breath. If an emperor could see his problems as small, so can we. Epictetus on death. The Stoics even applied perspective to the greatest pressure, death. Epictetus said, "I cannot escape death, but at least I can escape the fear of it." If even death loses power under perspective, what problem could truly crush us? Practical drill, the wide lens exercise. When overwhelmed, write the problem on paper. Then ask, how will this feel in 10 days? How will this feel in 10 months? How will this feel in 10 years? How does this compare to the entire span of human history? Pressure shrinks under the wide lens of time and scale. Micro story 4. The astronaut's view. An astronaut looks down at Earth from orbit. Borders vanish. Cities shrink. Problems seem invisible. He realizes that all the worries consuming billions of people are invisible from space. Perspective changes everything. Pressure magnifies when you zoom in. It shrinks when you zoom out. Use the 10-year test to measure true importance. Marcus Aurelius saw his life as a breath within eternity. So can we. Perspective does not erase problems, it places them in proportion. The bigger picture turns pressure into something you can carry. The transformation. Now imagine this. You wake up anxious about a presentation. Your chest is tight, your thoughts spiral. But instead of drowning, you remember Rule 1. You draw the 3 circles. You focus only on the actions that are yours. Later at work, a colleague criticizes you unfairly. Your pulse rises. But you recall Rule 2. You pause, breathe, delay your reply. The criticism passes like a cloud. You remain the sky. In the afternoon, the project scope changes. Pressure mounts. But you have trained in voluntary hardship. Rule 3. You've faced discomfort by choice. The sudden challenge feels familiar. You endure with calm. That evening, you receive a hurtful message. You want to retaliate, but instead you practice Rule 4. You stay silent. The silence preserves your dignity and drains power from the insult. Finally, before bed, you reflect on the day's burdens. You apply Rule 5. You ask yourself, will this matter in 10 years? Perspective washes over you. The weight shrinks. You fall asleep calm, not crushed. This is transformation. The same pressures remain, but you are no longer their prisoner. You are their master. The Stoics did not promise a life without storms. They promised a way to stand firm within them. 5 rules are your armor. Control only what is yours. Pause before reacting. Practice voluntary hardship. Wield silence as strength. Remember the bigger picture. Each one is simple. Together, they form an unbreakable chain of calm. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that his mind was sovereign. Epictetus taught that provocation only succeeds if we consent. Seneca trained in discomfort, so life's blows never caught him unprepared. Their words echo through centuries not as theory, but as tools, tools you can wield today. So the next time pressure presses in, remember the battlefield is not out there. It is in the breath you take, in the silence you choose, in the perspective you hold. Pressure does not have to destroy you. It can forge you. If these Stoic rules spoke to you, don't let this be the end. Subscribe now. Share this with someone carrying heavy pressure and comment below. Which Stoic rule will you practice today?